Evening, everybody. This fine Tuesday evening. This is Shay Bernhardt, the manager at BrooklynRadioStation.com, King and Queen Radio. Except tonight, I'm not here as that. This is my own private show as an artist and shaman. The shaman name. Hey, he has the heart of the bear and the artist Infinite Sorrow. And we got a good show for you tonight here on BrooklynStation.com. We're going to do, originally I was going to take some notes and move right along and share a little bit of the details of the lost book of Enki as translated by Zachariah Sitchin. But as I was going through and taking notes, I was like, man, this story is just too much. People need to hear this. So I ended up basically, I'm gonna be reading you the about 3/4 of the book because the first part of it can be summarized pretty well, and it has less to do with us and more to do with the Anunnaki. Um, it's going to be a good show this evening. So basically, I'm going to move to my new set because I just got done setting up a new set that's a little bit more of a comfortable setting to sit and do an audiobook reading in. So sit for a second and enjoy some theta waves, and the show will start in mere moments. So it's going to be a good show, and I highly recommend staying tuned. All right, you're listening to BrooklynStation.com.
Oh no, he's done it again.
Now, a very important thing I've told my daughter and granddaughters, no serious guys till you're 30.
No what?
No serious guys till you're 30.
I'll keep that in mind. At least.
Yeah, that's not creepy at all, is it? Getting into a young girl's personal space and telling her not to have any boyfriends until she's 30. And look at how the alarmed Secret Service dude tries to stop this being taped once he sees that Joe has reverted back to this peculiar behaviour. Because this is nothing new. Indeed, creepy Joe being handsy, inappropriate and invading people's personal space was something the US media used to note. Even the far-left CNN used to report on his weird antics.
There are hugs where you just throw up your arms and go for it. And then there are hugs that keep going and going and going. Joe Biden wouldn't let Hillary go as they met on the tarmac at Scranton Airport. About 4 seconds into the hug, they semi-disengage. Nothing to see here, right? Wrong, because the vice president wouldn't unhand Hillary for almost 16 seconds.
Notice how many times she tries to tap out. She lets it go, he does not. She tap out. Nope, she's just, no, he's still holding on. Okay, second tap out. For God's sake, Joe, you gotta let go.
This latest awkward hug would not have been microanalyzed if it hadn't been for all the other overly handy Biden moments. Critics collect them. Times when he gently rearranges a young girl's hair and whispers in her ear, then rearranges some more. There's nothing pervy here. The VP knows he's on camera at these swearing-in ceremonies, and the parents are right there as he leans in for a kiss.
Yes, in the days before Biden was president or running to be president, even leftist outlets were happy to tell you about his bizarre behaviour.
Perhaps his most famous hands-on moment came when he put his hands on the wife of Defense Secretary Ash Carter.
Got a lot of thanks to give out.
Conservatives panned it.
This is the creepiest thing.
And so did some liberals.
No, that ain't right, man. That ain't right. Why are you appeared to smell her hair?
At least the VP didn't get that close to Hillary.
Now, the late-night comedians used to marvel at Joe's disturbing episodes before Trump broke their brains and turned them into humorless DNC propagandists.
I can still see it!
What could you possibly be saying to her?
From the ancient past to the present, and figure out why the world is so bloody screwed up today, and why most of us, and especially the young people today, find this world utterly, completely incomprehensible. They do not resonate with anything, what's going on. Most of us are confused about what's going on in politics. We don't understand why things are just getting worse and worse and worse when the answers should be so bloody simple. And yet things are just getting more and more complicated. So clearly whatever is going on is going in the wrong direction. And that's why we have things like nostalgia, where we keep reminiscing about the good old days. Isn't that just that alone is a reminder that things used to be better in the past, because they're certainly not getting better into the future. So the concept of nostalgia is a reminder that we should wake up and do something about this future that we're hurtling towards. It's not looking pretty at this stage. But the good news is that there is a shining light at the end of this tunnel, which will end on the very high note tonight. So if you feel at any stage that this information is really dark and depressing, because it can get dark and depressing, I want to remind you that that's just the foundation for the information of what we can do as a species to get ourselves out of this mess. And I like to always work with the positive in mind, because if we don't, then there really is no purpose to this life as I see it today, personally. So, why does it matter that we connect the dots from the past? Because if we don't know who we are and where we come from, how could we possibly know where we are going? That's actually a quote from Jurassic Park, believe it or not. So, what I'd like to ask you tonight is to keep an open mind at all times, because the information, the further I go down this rabbit hole, the more disturbing it becomes. And I'm sure many of you are aware of this already. And there is no bottom to the rabbit hole. It just gets weirder and weirder and weirder. And some of the information I'm going to share with you tonight is getting to that point where I don't know if I can actually talk about some things in public at this stage. Some things I have to edit myself, because if I talk about some things in public, which I've tried, I come under incredible attacks. And I don't want to alienate any people. My whole purpose is to unite people, not to divide people anymore. We bloody divided enough. So let's share information that actually is going to act as a platform to unify people and give us a direction forward instead of create more division. So some level of editing is necessary from time to time to keep that unifying factor going. So let's kick this off. The world is covered in countless, unimaginable numbers of ancient, megalithic, ancient sites built by civilizations and people that we know nothing about. Every year, every month, every week, new sites are being discovered. And I know that Hugh Newman, for example, is one of those people that keeps discovering new, incredible sites. Some of the things he shared with me over the last few days just blew my mind. So we have no idea of what happened on this planet. We just literally are like babies waking up from a deep sleep, trying to figure out who we are, where we come from, and why we're here, while there's this unwritten, unknown history of our planet that probably goes back a lot further and is a lot more weird and strange and unimaginable that most of us could possibly fathom. And it's these strange structures like this that were built by some people in ancient times. And when they were finished building this one, they decided to go from South America to just up the road here and build one of these. They said, let's drag a bunch of rocks from Wales and put them up in a circle. And somebody said, well, why should we do that? Because it's cool. And they did that. So they dragged a bunch of rocks, put them in a circle, and it looked cool, and they moved on. And they went into the desert, and they built a big statue because they didn't have any statues. And the reason I realized just recently why they could do all this stuff in ancient times, very simple reason, because they did not have jobs. They didn't have jobs to go to every day. They had all this time on their hands to do stuff with. Say, what shall we do today? Hey, let's go and build some of these pyramidal kind of things right next to this big statue in the desert. So they went and they built big pyramidal stuff, and they went out somewhere out near Israel and then built these big platforms with giant rocks, and they went up the mountain in South America, and they built more rocks that fitted into each other, and they thought, wow, it'll freak out people in the future. And they went and built, carved big statues and put them under a roof of solid stone and rock, and because they needed statues and they needed some place to go and worship and offer food to these statues. And then they went up the mountain and they built faces, wall faces with faces sticking out them. And why did they do that? Because it's going to freak people out. And they did that because they had all this time. And then they had a board meeting under a tree like people in ancient times did, like they still do in Africa, because they didn't have jobs. They had just this time, and they had a board meeting under a tree. And one of the guys said, look, what we've never done yet is dig a hole and surround the hole with giant stones. So they said, well, let's do that. So they did that. Why should we do it? Because we can. So they did that. And then one said, wow, that's amazing, huh? I said, what did I just hear you say? Did you say, huh? I said, wow, I think that is a really cool letter for an alphabet. We don't have an alphabet yet, but I think let's start with her as a first letter of the alphabet. So they went up the mountain and they carved a whole lot of hers, and they left them behind to confuse us. And then one of them said, you know what we've never done? We've never carved a whole city out of solid rock. So they went up the mountain and carved a whole city out of solid rock. Then they said, we need more pillars on top of a platform. So they built more pillars on a platform. Somebody said, we need more stairs with pillars. So they built more stairs with pillars. And then what is clearly evidential is that these people could hold their breath for a long, long time, because then they went under the water, under the oceans, and they did this only because they could hold their breath. Otherwise, they could never do this. Then they went into the jungles and they built these kind of things. They're really scary. And they built more statues and chopped their heads off because that was freaky. And then another guy said, what we've never done is taken a big rock and hollow the rock out. So they went and they hollowed a bunch of rocks out, and they scattered them throughout Siberia, and then they went back into the desert and they carved out big blocks and put them on top of each other like Lego blocks, and they covered it with sand because they thought it would be fun, just cover it with sand. And then they built this big thing that when you look at it from the top, it vibrates. It looks like it's moving and vibrating. And then they put these bell-like things on top of it to do something, and we don't quite know what it was. And the amazing thing is that they did all this stuff with hammers, chisels, ropes, and pulleys. And this is what our historians are still trying to convince us of today. That is the most remarkable and unbelievable thing. Even the next most unbelievable thing is that pretty much everything I shared with you here so far, all of these structures are either in the northern hemisphere or along the equator. Very little has ever happened in the southern hemisphere. And that's a big problem. Until you discover the vanished civilizations of southern Africa. Because if southern Africa is supposed to be this cradle of humankind that we keep being told about, there must be stuff that happened there in ancient times. And that's exactly what it is. The vanished civilizations of southern Africa is a big, big deal. I've only recently started to realize what a big deal it is, because until I started talking about this and showing this on the large scale in the numbers that we find these ancient ruins in southern Africa, there was very little knowledge or information written or available about that. So welcome to my part of the world and my life, to the stone circles and the vanished civilizations of southern Africa that left behind more than 10 million circular stone ruins that are absolutely spectacular only when you start looking at them from the air. Each one is completely unique, and some of them are very large, some of them are small, some of them look insignificant, some of them look like beautiful flowers. And you'll notice that they're all connected to each other by these channels. They do not stand alone. You'll notice that they have extended structures that are covered by soil that move away from the stone circles as we see them sticking out of the ground today. And it just goes on and on. What you're looking at is the largest cluster of stone ruins found anywhere in the world today. It makes everything else pale into insignificance. Sometimes they run for 100 by 100 kilometers. Connected, all stone circles that are not standalone. They're all connected by channels and this weird spider's web effect that holds all of these circles and the channels together. And you just see the devastation and the destruction from some event that destroyed all of this a long, long time ago. and then a few of them have been rebuilt and restructured in more recent times. The key thing here is that there are no doors and entrances, so these cannot be dwellings for people or cows or other animals, because clearly they were not built with doors and entrances. They're something else. Archaeological drawings from 1939 clearly indicate that they have no doors and entrances, that they're circular structures all connected to each other by these channels looking like a bunch of grapes here in this image. And sometimes these circles are concentric, connected to each other, all linking to each other. And that is all seated in a large network of agricultural terraces that cover at least 450,000 square kilometers in South Africa and Zimbabwe. Who built these terraces? What were they for? What were they growing? And who were they feeding? In the most recent research that I've found from Anton Parks, if you've not come across Anton Parks yet, I highly recommend that you get his books. They're now available in English. It is a whole new spin and a whole new level on Anunnaki activity. And not just Anunnaki, but many other ancient beings that were not necessarily as benevolent as the Anunnaki. A whole new look at the Sumerian language as a prototype language to pretty much every language in the world today. And in there he suggests that whatever was happening in Southern Africa, they were growing huge amounts of food that were from there, they were feeding all the other groups of beings around the world from one central food growing area. And I'm suspecting that this is maybe this is why there are so many agricultural terraces, because they were feeding the beings, whether they were Anunnaki or other beings from around the world, from Southern Africa. The ancient sites are just basically advanced technology on a gigantic scale. And we've never been able to see it because most of us don't really get images, or we don't see these ancient sites from the air, like the stone circles. When you stand next to it and you walk in these temples in Egypt, it's so overwhelming and so mesmerizing that we don't really see the wood for the trees. But when you start looking at it from the air, everything changes. And when I was there again in 2012, I realized that these obelisks are just like antennae. They ring like bells, like the stones in my museum I've been collecting. They're beautiful. They ring so perfectly. And when you look at these temples in Egypt, they're just too many pillars, not enough space. It's obviously not meant to come and kiss butt of some king or some god and offer food and come there for forgiveness and all, It's just, it's the wrong shape, the wrong size, too many pillars. Why? And when you start looking at it from the air, you realize what it's all about. It's not about worshiping and offering food and that. And you start seeing what's going on. Resonating, vibrating pillars on beautiful platforms, acoustic chambers, and very quickly you realize that these are just templates for gigantic circuit boards, gigantic energy circuit boards on a scale that we could not have imagined. And because they did this in times where money did not restrict what they were trying to achieve. They did what they had to do to either inhabit a planet or survive or create a result that they were looking for. Microprocessors become giant macro processors. And this is one of my favorite images. You can just imagine what historians are telling us about the kind of worshiping that used to go in these places here. Oh yeah, no, those are major places of worship. Really? Yeah. And the pyramid is just a beautiful example of the same thing. It just carries on. And Angkor Wat, I mean, there you got the combination of quartz and water, the two most abundant elements on Earth, that both contain memory, conduct light and sound. Saksai Huaman is another great example of just a circuit board on top of a mountain. This is not a mountaintop fortress, clearly built for other reasons, that was possibly inhabited in more recent times and used by more recent civilizations, just like the stone circles. That some of the most recent civilizations used it. They created doors and entrances in so they could use it for themselves and for their cows or whatever, but not the original architects. That's not what it was built for. Borobudur, Indonesia, I mean, this is just ridiculous. Literally, if you see photographs from right above, it looks like it's alive. It's actually, the photograph looks like it moves when you look at it. And then obviously on top of it, it's a dead giveaway. These giant bells with these antennae going up into the sky, and it's always antenna going up into the sky. And it seems that it was human sound that actually held up this weird energy grid that was used to activate these circuit boards. Human sound, because you see these perfectly acoustic amphitheaters that are always connected to many of these circuit boards. The Parthenon in Egypt is also an old circuit board. There's your giant thing there, the resonating chamber there, and the rest of the circuit board has already been completely destroyed, and it's connected to the amphitheater here, and there's another smaller amphitheater there, and the amphitheaters are always connected to the circuit board. To activate it, you fill that with a bunch of people, you scare them, you get them excited, you make them make a noise, clap their hands, or sing, or fill them with fear, and that energy gets shoved into the circuit board. It activates the circuit board to whatever it's supposed to do, and we got some interesting stuff going on. Here's another example. There's your circuit board connected with a beautiful row of ringing pillars connected to the circuit board here, the amphitheater there. This is a very badly destroyed circuit board, as you can see. And there's another one, old remains of the circuit board up top, the top of the mountain. There's your amphitheater there that was connected to it. And there's another one here in North Africa, in Algeria. Here they put the circuit board, they put the amphitheater right into the heart of the circuit board. It's really badly destroyed. And so it goes. And nothing has changed in 2018. Temples have just become churches, towers, steeples. Who came up with this idea of this giant cone sticking up into the sky? Who was the architect that came up with this? Why do churches and places of worship have to have this architecture? It's been...
Don't let me control it. They will indoctrinate you. Don't believe their lies. It's all bullshit. Everything you believe is a lie. Is controlled by your belief. Open your mind. Don't let them control you. They will indoctrinate you. Don't believe their lies.
Sudosi budosi naranjanasi samsara maya pariyajitesi samsara swavanam chajamohad nidram najanma mrityur traisat swarupi Sudosi budosi naranjanasi samsara maya pariyajitesi samsara swavanam chajamohad nidram najanma mrityur traisat swarupi Sudosi budosi naranjanasi samsara maya pariyajitesi samsara swavanam chajamohad nidram najanma mrityur traisat swarupi Sudosi budosi naranjanasi samsara maya pariyajitesi samsara swavanam chajamohad nidram najanma mrityur traisat swarupi You are forever pure, you are forever true, and the dream of this world can never touch you. So give up your attachment and give up your confusion and fly to that space that's beyond all illusion. You are forever pure, you are forever true, and the dream of this world can never touch you. So give up your attachment and give up your confusion and fly to that space that's beyond all illusion. You are forever pure, you are forever true, and the dream of this world can never touch you. So give up your attachment and give up your confusion and fly to that space that's beyond all illusion. You are forever pure, you are forever true, and the dream of this world can never touch you. So give up your attachment and give up your confusion and fly to that space that's beyond all illusion. Sudo se budo se naranjana se samsara maya pariya jete se samsara svapanam trajamoha nidram najanma mrityur trisat svarupi. Sudo se budo se naranjana se samsara maya pariya jete se samsara svapanam trajamoha nidram najanma mrityur trisat svarupi. Sudo se budo se naranjana se samsara maya pariya jete se samsara svapanam trajamoha nidram najanma mrityur trisat svarupi. You are forever pure, you are forever true, and the dream of this world can never touch you. So give up your attachment and give up your confusion and fly to that space that's beyond all illusion. You are forever pure, you are forever true, and the dream of this world can never touch you. So give up your attachment and give up your confusion and fly to that space that's beyond all illusion. You are forever pure, you are forever true, and the dream of this world can never touch you. So give up your attachment and give up your confusion and fly to that space that's beyond all illusion. Sudo se budo se naranjana se samsara maya pariya jete se samsara svapanam trajamoha nidram najanma mrityur trisat svarupi. Sudo se budo se naranjana se samsara maya pariya jete se samsara svapanam trajamoha nidram najanma mrityur trisat svarupi. Sudo se budo se naranjana se samsara maya pariya jete se samsara svapanam trajamoha nidram najanma mrityur trisat svarupi.
All right. That is a beautiful song, and that was by Shimshai, actually, and as a matter of fact, I spoke to him and told him about the introduction to my show and got his endorsement to use that song as part of the introduction behind my song, right? Because mine's a little bit more along the lines of it was made when I was kind of angry about some of the things I had been learning throughout my studies, and it's like the sequence, the guy speaking about the how everybody got kind of bored and went around and built a bunch of temples and stuff. That is a Michael Tellinger doing a speech for the Megalithomania UK, and I'm actually still trying to get a hold of that guy because he's got a lot to say, and actually I would really like to get involved in some of his work because he's trying to put together a society based on what he's learned as a result of his research down there in South Africa. So. We're gonna do, as I say, we're gonna do a reading as translated by Zachariah Sitchin, and I highly recommend his books. He's passed away, unfortunately, and I picked this one up off of archive.org, which is an excellent resource for open source information. In fact, they have a microfiche collection that's quite unreal. So. A non-profit organization, highly recommend if you're into researching. They are definitely somewhere to go. So there's a lot of book here and a lot of information here, and one of the things I want to stress is that this does not express any opinions of Brooklyn Station LLC, King Queen Radio, or BrooklynStation.com. This is merely me providing information that I believe it to be true. That does not make it true, and keep an open mind, and this information is for educational purposes only, and it is quite educational. This is it's interesting because and you'll see the tie-in to what Tellinger was talking about at the start of it, because a lot of what it speaks of in this ancient Sumerian text, which was supposedly directly communicated to the scribe by Enki himself. Now, it starts out with basically you got your 12th planet, which is Nibiru, which has an orbit that's 360,000 years to make its complete orbit. Basically, that's that planet X that science keeps on talking about. Now, in the original celestial battle story that the Sumerians had in their histories, it speaks basically of the planet, it was one of the moons of the planet, and the planet hitting Tiamat, which was a planet in our solar system that it got demolished and formed the asteroid belt, and. There's evidence of the outer planets having been impacted, as well as we all know what Mars looks like, and then you got the moon that got hit by. The moon obviously got beat to shreds by a few impacts, to say the least. Now, I forget the exact date this book is copyright at, and it's like, however, it's quite old if you think about it. I mean, we're talking the 70s, I believe, is when he was writing his books, and the 80s, I believe, and basically a lot of discoveries we've made since then have done nothing but basically back up these histories. So basically, part of the planet ended up breaking off and forming Earth, and the moon. We're not going to even get to the moon right now. That's an entirely different rabbit hole, and it's like we don't have the time right now to go down that rabbit hole yet, and there's really not enough information anyway, although there is a little. Anyway, back to what I was saying. All right, so basically, then millions of years later, and this is. The Anunnaki were originally supposed to have arrived about almost 500,000 years ago. I think it was like 456,000 years ago or something like that. The Sumerians did put exact dates, and there is ways to cross-reference them with our own dates, but it's like a whole lot of math and stuff like that. And I mean, if you want to be that exact about it, you're welcome to grab some books on it and do the math yourself. But I'm not going to do the math for you because it's kind of a lot of complicated math. The Sumerians actually had some pretty complicated. They had several different calendars they ran by, and they were celestial. They had basically your regular calendar, your celestial calendar, your Nibiru calendar. And that's one of the reasons why there was so much stuff that was related to astrology, basically, and their knowledge was pretty sophisticated. One thing to keep in mind is that they've counted when reading the Sumerian histories, they count the planets from the outside in. And it's like official archaeology, of course, will tell you that it's like they only knew of like 3 planets or some crap like that. I don't know. I really don't listen to the official story anymore because it's always bullshit, and we know that. So let's continue on into the real story. All right. So basically, the atmosphere on their planet is maintained more or less. It's kind of a complex system, and it's maintained a lot by volcanic activity, according to the histories. That at this point really isn't important so much as it ended up that they managed to they started to get a hole in the protective layer, their atmosphere that was protecting them and keeping the heat trapped in their planet so that they could survive. Now, there's a lot to that, and we're kind of skipping over that in the interest of getting to the meat and potatoes, but it boils down to the salvation of their planet was to infuse a like fine gold powder into the atmosphere. They figured out some way to do that, and that was how they were going to save their planet. Now Earth, there's a story behind that too. We're not going to go into that, but they found out that there was gold on Earth, and they managed to get through the asteroid belt. And this is kind of important because to get through the asteroid belt, they brought some very powerful weapons with them, and Enki hid the weapons because he was one of the first ones there, and he landed down in the Tigris-Euphrates area and started building his home there. Basically, eventually, it got to the point where they had they built a way station on Mars where the gold would get lifted by ships from here up to Mars, and then from there it would get shipped to Nibiru, and Nibiru came in on an orbit. Now, for these entities, due to the fact that it takes a year orbit for their planet to do its like little stint around the sun, it means that for them a year is 360,000 years. Now, there's a lot of corroboration with this on the when you look at the Sumerian kings list, because I mean the kings list lists kings that rule for tens of thousands of years, and then once it gets to the point where we can cross reference with what we know with the kings we know that were in rulership at this time, it's pretty accurate all the way up from where we can trace it to up. It's very accurate, but then they disregard the rest of it that's talks about some king ruling for 15,000 years because that's just how modern science is. Now here in a minute I'm gonna start screen sharing you while I read out of this. I'm gonna screen share you a list of the people that are basically part of the Bilderberg group, and that's the group that came up with the reading I did on the first episode, the Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. Now you'll find these tactics written also. There's a Chinese book passing around that speaks of it, and there's also a Russian book passing around that speaks of it. So I mean, this is not an isolated piece of knowledge that I gave you guys. It's spread worldwide, and it's being enacted worldwide. So if you feel like something's wrong, you're right. Something is wrong, and that's the importance and why I'm sitting and reading this to you is because it's important that you know the true history, because if you don't know where you've been, then you can't possibly know where you're going, and you're doomed to repeat the same mistakes over and over again. Now, this book, we won't get it finished today, but on the next episode, we'll get towards the end of it, and you'll understand when I say that we will be doomed to repeat the same mistakes over and over again, because, it's like we are, if you haven't noticed, repeating the same stupid mistakes over and over again. And this here story has a lot of the same stupid mistakes in it that we've been making. So it's like these mistakes have been being made for quite some time, unfortunately. Let's see. So basically, they originally intended to basically filter the gold out of the water because, of course, ocean water and salt water has a lot of gold in it. But unfortunately, what they found was that just didn't quite work for them. They just couldn't get enough doing it that way. So they decided to do it a different way. Now, this is basically where I'm coming in, because it's like the reason they had to start mining and basically digging big old holes in the ground, and then of course from there they would have to pardon me. From there they would have to smelt it, and they take the ore and they'd smelt the ore, and then yada yada yada. It's a lot of work. And so basically the ones that were the Anunnaki that had to do it were a little bit on the unpleased side about it, and they had a revolt. And it's like basically that's where we're picking it up at the revolt. Let's see, hold on a second. All my stuff's malfunctioning, of course. We're picking it up during the revolt, and basically what it is Enlil, who was in charge of an area up north called Eden, and Enlil was basically he was younger than Enki, but he was basically next in line for the throne of Nibiru because he was born to the half sister of the king, and according to their rules of succession, basically if you have a half sister and a child by her, that child is next in line, even if there's an older child by another official spouse. So, and that creates quite a bit of confusion as far as succession in the throne goes, and that's kind of at the root of a lot of the issues. So basically, we're picking it up where Enlil comes out and he sees all the Anunnaki miners sitting there, and they got their torches, and they're in a big mob, and they're quite aggravated because they have to work their butts off to get this gold, and it's they want some relief. So we're picking up with Enlil speaking to them. What do my eyes see? Is it against me that this thing is done? Thus was Enlil to them saying, who is the hostilities, the instigator? The Anunnaki stood together. Every single one of us hostilities has declared. Excessive is the toil. Our work is heavy. Great is the distress. So they were to Enlil saying, words of the happenings Enlil to Anu. Anu is the king of Nibiru, and he's on Nibiru at this point in time. Words of the happenings Enlil to Anu beamed. Of what is Enlil accused? Anu inquired. The work, not Enlil, is the trouble causing, Enki to Anu was saying. The lamentation is heavy. Every day the complaints we could hear. The gold must be obtained, Anu was saying. The work must continue. Release Ennugi for consultations, Enlil to the hostile Anunnaki said, because Ennugi was basically the headmaster of the mine, and they took him captive, right? So Ennugi was released. To the leaders he was thus saying, ever since the earth heat has been rising, the toil is excruciating. Unbearable it is. Let the rebels to Nibiru return. Let new ones come in their stead, Ninurta said. Perchance new tools you can fashion, Enlil to Enki said. For the Anunnaki heroes, the tunnels to avoid? Let us summon my son Ningishzada. I'm probably mangling these, but they have kind of a lot of consonants. So, Ningishzada counsel with hire I wish to take. Enki thus responded. They summoned Ningishzada from the house of life. He came. With him Enki huddled. Words amongst them they exchanged. A solution is possible, Enki was saying. Let us create a Lulu, a primitive worker, the hardship work to take over. Let the being the toil of the Anunnaki carry on his back. Astounded were the besieged leaders. Speechless indeed they were. Oh, lost my place there. There we go. Speechless indeed they were. Who ever heard of a being afresh created, a worker who the Anunnaki's work can do? They summoned Ninma, one who of healing and sucre was much knowing. Enki's words to her they repeated. Whoever of such a thing heard, they her asked. The task is unheard of, she to Enki said. All beings from a seed have descended, one being from another over aeons did develop. None from nothing ever came. How right you are, my sister, Enki said smiling. Yeah, hold on a second. There we go. All right. There we go. How right you are, my sister, Enki said, smiling. A secret of the Absu let me to you all reveal. All right, hold on one second. There. And the Absu, that's Africa, by the way, South Africa specifically. So those ruins that he was talking about there in South Africa. All right, basically Enki was Mesopotamian, and at that point he had Abzu was considered the underworld, which was under the equator. So Eden was above the equator, Abzu was under the equator, basically speaking. All right, where we are. A secret of the Absu let me to you all reveal. The being that we need, it already exists. All we have to do. Yep. There we go. All we have to do is put the mark of our essence, thereby a Lulu, a primitive worker, shall be created. Let us hereby a decision make, a blessing to my plan give, to create a primitive worker by the mark of our essence to fashion him. All right, so now they're talking about gene splicing, right? I mean, that's pretty intense. Let's see. Let's get to the next spot here. Sorry, my computer, of course, is acting up. It always does that. So, all right. So, let me get that. There we go. All right. Creatures in the Abzu, which is South Africa, there are, Enki was saying, that walk erect on two legs. There are four legs they use as arms. With hands they are provided. Among the animal of the steppes they live. And they know not dressing in garments. They eat plants with their mouths. They drink water from lake and ditch. Shaggy with hair is their whole body. The head hair is like a lion's. With gazelles they jostle. With teeming creatures in the waters they delight. The leaders to Enki's words with amazement listened. No creature like that has ever in the Eden has been seen, Enlil, disbelieving, said. Aeons ago on Nibiru, our predecessors like that might have been, Ninma was saying. It is a being, not a creature, Ninma was saying. To behold it must be a thrill. To the house of life Enki led them. In strong cages there were some of the beings. At the sight of Enki and the others, they jumped up. With fists on the cage bars they were beating. They were grunting and snorting. No words were they speaking. Male and female they are, Enki was saying. Male hoods and female hoods they have. Like us, from Nibiru coming, they are procreating. Zina, my son, their fashioning essence is tested. Akin to ours it is, like two serpents, it is entwined. All right, so they're talking about DNA right there, like two serpents, it is entwined. When there with our life essence shall be combined, our mark upon them shall be. A primitive worker shall be created. Our commands, there's my cat, our commands will be understood. Our tools he will handle, the toil in the excavations he shall perform. To the Anunnaki in the Absu, relief shall come. Oh, let's do that. Think maybe that helped. Oh, yep. All right, so let's see. There we go. All right. So was Enki with enthusiasm saying, with excitement his words came forth. Let me do this. There we go. All right, well, yeah, that's no better. I don't know what it is. It's like there's just resistance for me ever telling the story to people, which is annoying, to say the least. All right. Let's see. With the... Enlil at the words was hesitating. The matter is one of great importance. On our planet, slavery has long ago been abolished. Tools are the slaves, not other beings. A new creature beforehand, non-existing, you wish to bring into being. Creation in the hands of the Father of all beginning alone is held. So again, I say this does not contradict any spiritual faith because these guys believed in a higher power greater than them. So eventually, you know, it explains what this will eventually get into what happened with them and their hubris. But it's important to keep in mind that there's several times throughout this text that they speak of the Father of all beginnings. So, you know, it's like, again, I'm not contradicting any faiths. I'm just saying that, you know, it's like we're being misled by our leadership, and that's deliberate. All right. The being already, yeah. All right, so Enlil in opposing saying, stern were his words, because, you know, that's what he was looking at as slavery, which really is what it was, but we'll get into that. The being already exists, Ninmah was saying. To give more ability is the plan. Not a new creature, but one existing more in our image made, Enki with persuasion said. With little change it can be achieved. Only a drop of our essence is needed. A grave matter it is. It is not to my liking, Enlil was saying. Against the rules of from planet to planet journeying it is. By the rules of to earth coming it was forbidden. To obtain gold was our purpose. To replace the Father of all beginning it was not. After Enlil thus had spoken, Ninmah was the one to respond. My brother, Ninmah to Enlil was saying, with wisdom and understanding has the Father of all beginning us endowed. To what purpose have we been perfected, else it to utmost use to make? With wisdom and understanding has the Creator of all our life essence filled. To whatever using of it we capable are, is it not for which we have been destined? With little change, with that which in our essence was granted, tools and chariots we have perfected. Mountains with tear weapons we shattered. Skies with gold we are healing. So was Ninurta to his birth-giving mother, saying, let us with wisdom new tools fashion, not new beings create. Let by new equipment, not by slave beings, the toil be relieved. Whereto our understanding does us lead, to that which we have been destined. So Ningishzaida, saying, with Enki and Ninmah, he in agreement was. What knowledge we possess, its use cannot be prevented, Ningishzaida was saying. Destiny indeed cannot be altered. From the beginning to the end it has been determined. To them Enlil was thus saying, destiny it is, or fate it is, that to this planet us has brought, to gold from the water's foil, to put Anunnaki heroes to excavating toil, to a primitive worker create to be planning. That, my kinfolk, is the question. Thus with graveness Enlil was saying, is it destiny, is it fate? That is what deciding requires. Is it from the beginning ordained, or for us by us for choosing? To put the matter before Anu, they decided. Anu before the council the matter presented. The elders, the savants, the commanders were consulted. Long and bitter the discussions were, of life and death, fate and destiny, words were spoken. Can there be another way the gold to obtain? Survival is in danger. If gold must be obtained, let the being be fashioned, the council decided. Let Anu forsake the rules of planetary journeys. Let Nibiru be saved. From Anu's palace, the decision to earth was beamed. It, Enki, delighted. Let Ninmah my helper be, of such matters understanding she has, which Ninmah was his half sister. So if he could get her to himself, he could mate with her and reclaim his birthright, right? At Ninmah with a longing he was gazing. Let it be so, Ninmah was saying. Let it be so, Enlil did say. By Enugi was the decision to the Anunnaki in the Absu announced. Until the being is achieved, to the toil willingly you must return, he said. There was disappointment, rebellion there was not. To the toil the Anunnaki returned. In the house of life, in the Absu, how to fashion the being, Enki to Ninmah was explaining. To a place among the trees, Ninmah he directed. A place of cages it was. In the cages there were odd creatures, their likes in the wild no one had seen. Fore parts of one kind they had, hind parts of another creature they possessed. Creatures of two kinds, by their essences combined, to Ninmah Enki was showing. To the house of life they returned, to a clean place with brightness shining they led her. In the clean place Ningajada to Ninmah the life essence secrets was explaining. How the essence from two kinds combined can be, he to her was showing. The creatures in the tree cages are too old. Monstrous they are, Ninmah was saying. Indeed so, Enki responded. To attain perfection, for that you are needed. How the essences to combine, how much of this, how much of that to put together, in which womb conception to begin, in which womb should the birth be given. For that your succor and healing understanding are needed. The understanding of one who gave birth, who is a mother, it is required. With Ningajada, she surveyed the sacred formulas that on MEs were secreted. How this and that were done of him she inquired. The creatures in the tree cages she examined, the two-legged creatures she contemplated. By a male inseminating a female are the essences transmitted. The two entwined strands separate and combine an offspring to fashion. All right, again, they're talking about DNA here. Let a male Anunnaki, a two-legged female impregnate. Let a combination offspring be born. Thus did Ninmah say. That we have tried. With failures it resulted, to her Enki responded. There was no conceiving, there was no birth. Now this is the account of how the primitive worker was created. How Enki and Ninmah, with Ningajida assisting the being fashioned. Another way the admixture of essences to attain must be tried, Ninmah was saying. How the two strands of essences to combine, one way must be found. That which from the earth is the portion must not be harmed. To receive our essence in graduations, it must be shaped. From the ME formulas of Nibiru's essence, only bit by bit could be attempted. In a crystal vessel, Ninmah an admixture was preparing. The oval of a female two-legged she gently placed. With ME Anunnaki seed containing, she the oval impregnated. The oval back into the womb of the two-legged female she inserted. This time there was conceiving. A birth was indeed forthcoming. The allotted time for birth-giving the leaders awaited with anxious hearts the results they were seeking. The allotted time arrived. There was no birth-giving. In desperation, Ninmah a cutting made. That which was conceived with tongs she drew out. So, cesarean. A living being it was. With glee, Enki shouted, "We attain, Ningajida!" With joy cried out. In her hands, Ninmah the newborn held. With joy she was not filled. Shaggy, with hair all over the newborn. His foreparts like of the earth creatures were. His hind parts to those of the Anunnaki more akin they were. They let the two-legged female, the newborn nurse, with her milk him to suckle. Fast was the newborn growing. What a Nibiru a day was, a month in the Absu was. Taller the child grew. In the image of the Anunnaki he was not. His hands for tools were not suited. His speech only grunting sounds was. We must try once more, Ninmah was saying. The admixture needs adjusting. Let me the MEs essay. With this or that ME make the endeavor. Now ME is some type of acronym or name for basically sources of information, kind of like I don't know what you'd call it. It basically like I don't know, some type of disk, say a tablet with its memory full of stuff, you know, or a disk drive or a flash drive, something like that. That's basically what MEs are. I kind of like them to flash drives myself. So when I say ME, think flash drive. All right, on we go. With the Enki and Ningi side assisting, they repeated the procedures. The essences in the MEs Ninma carefully considered. One bit she took from one bit she took out from another. Then in the crystal bowl, the oval of an earth female she inseminated. There was conception at the appropriate time, there was birth giving. This one more in the likeness of the Anunnaki was. They let his birth mother him suckle, they let the newborn to a child grow. Appealing he was by his looks. His hands to hold tools were shapen. His senses they tested, but they found they were deficient. The earth child could not hear. His eyesight had faltered. Again and again, Ninma rearranged the admixtures. Of the ME formulas, she took bits and pieces. One being had paralyzed feet, etc., etc. One had trembling hands, a malfunctioning liver had the other. One had hands too short. Soup. One is, where are they? Okay, enki. All right, one had hands too short to reach the mouth. One had lungs for breathing unsuited. Enki, by the results, was disappointed. A primitive worker is not attained to Ninma, he was saying. What is good or is bad in this being by trials I am discovering, Ninma to Enki responded. To continue for success, my heart prompts me. Once more the admixture she made. Once more the newborn was deficient. Perchance this shortfall is not in the admixture, Enki to her was saying. Perchance neither in the female's oval nor in the essence is the hindrance. Not of Nibiru's crystals use the vessel, of the clay of the earth make it. So was Enki with great wisdom possessed to Ninma, saying, Perchance what is earth's own admixture of gold and copper is required. This was Enki, he who knows things, prompting her to use the clay of the Abzu. In the house of life, Ninma made a vessel out of the clay of Abzu. As a purifying bath, she shaped the vessel, within it to make the admixture. Gently into the clay vessel, the oval of an earth female, the two-legged she put. The life essence from an Anunnaki's blood extracted, she in the vessel placed. By the ME formulas was the essence directed. Bit by correct bit was it in the vessel added. Then the oval thus fertilized into the womb of the earth female she inserted. Into the womb, basically that one came out bad too, and then Enki's solution was, into the womb of the earth female the fertilized oval was always inserted. Perchance this is the remaining obstruction. Of who the fertilized oval nurtures to birth-giving carries, in our image and after our likeness is to be, perchance an Anunnaki womb is required. So skipping a little bit there, and basically what she does is they use an Anunnaki surrogate mother, and that Anunnaki has a child, and smooth was his skin, smooth as the Anunnaki skin it was. Like dark red blood was its color, like the clay of the Abzu was its hue. They looked at his malehood. Odd was its shape, by a skin was its forepart surrounded. Unlike the Anunnaki malehood it was, a skin from its forepart was hanging. Let the earthling from us Anunnaki by this foreskin be distinguished, so was Enki saying. Adamu, I shall call him, Ninma was saying. One who like earth's clay is, that will be his name. So Adamu. A model for primitive workers we have indeed attained, Enki was saying. Now a host of workers like him are needed. Ningashada, his elders reminded, a model indeed he shall be. As for himself, like a firstling he shall be treated. From toil he himself shall be protected. His essence alone as a mold shall be. So was Enki saying, by his decree, Ninma was greatly pleased. All right, so let's see. So basically, they started artificially inseminating Anunnaki females with this hybrid so that they could breed these workers, but they were finding it to be rather slow. So they were debating on the solution, and again, the female ones we have to fashion, Enki was saying, for male counterparts to be. Let them know each other as one flesh the two to become. Let them by themselves procreate on their own childbirthing make. The Emmy formulas you must change, from male to female adjustment make. So did Enki to Zina say. Let's skip forward a little bit. They do that. They change the mixture. They inseminate. They inseminate one of the females, of course. And let's see, my computer. There we go. The 10th month, a month of evil fates, they begin to call, because the baby was not born at 9 months, and at 10 months, Ninmah, the lady whose hand wombs has opened, with a cutter and incision made. Her head was covered, on her hands protection she wore. With dexterity the opening she made, her face at once was brightened. That which the womb was from the womb came forth. A female birth was given. To Ninki with joy she shouted. The newborn's visage and limbs were carefully examined. Of good shape were her ears. Her eyes were not clogged. Her limbs were proper, hind parts like legs, fore parts like hands were shaped. Shaggy she was not, like beach sands was the hue of her head hair. And it goes on to describe that. All right, hold on a second. My computer acting up again. I hate this. And I won't let me move it to the other screen either, which really sucks. All right. Just a second. There we go. All right, so there we are. Now, this is where it gets pretty intense, because this is... All right, so basically we have Adamu, or Adam, and we have Eve's. Let's see. Bang, bang, bang. There we go. All right, so then they turn Adam and Eve. They turn Adam, and actually they call, if I remember correctly, they call her Tiamat. There we go. There we go. There's where I was. Dang computer. There we go. It just messes up right there for some reason. All right. Yeah, Tiamat let her name be, the mother of life, Ninki was saying. Like the planet of old, which the earth and the moon were fashioned, let her be called. From her womb's life essences, other birth givers shall be molded. So then in 7 vessels of clay of the Absu made Ninmah ovals of the 2-legged females placed. The life essence of Tiamat she extracted bit by bit in the vessels she had inserted. In the vessels of the clay of the Absu made, Ninmah the admixture formed. Incantations as the procedure befits she was uttering. In the wombs of the birth-giving heroines, the fertilized ovals were inserted. There was conception at the allotted time. Birth-giving were occurring. At the allotted time, 7 female earthlings were born. So they told them to, go forth, be fruitful, and multiply, except they had 7 male and 7 females, and basically they were not able to reproduce. And so so they placed them in. They took them up to. They had them up there in. They had them up there in Eden, and they put them together there to breed, and they let them together grow up. Malehoods and femalehoods attain. Let the males and females inseminate. Let them by themselves offspring beget. So were they to each other saying, as for Adamu and Tiamat, from the toil of the excavation they shall be protected. Let us them to the Eden being over, to the Anunnaki therein our handiwork displayed. So was Enki to the others saying, with that the others did concur. To Eridu in the Eden, the city of Enki, Adamu and Tiamat were taken. An abode in an enclosure for them was built. To roam therein they could. The Anunnaki of the Eden came to see them. From the landing place they came. Enlil came to see him. By their sight his displeasure was diminished. Enki saw them mating. The males and females were inseminating. Conceiving there was not. Birth-giving there was not. Enki the matter deeply pondered. The creatures once combined he contemplated. None, not one of them, had offspring begotten. By two kinds combined, a curse has been created, Enki to the others said. Let us the essences of Adamu and Tiamat afresh examine, Ningishida was saying. Their emis bit by bit to be studied. What is wrong to ascertain? In Sharubak, in the House of Healing, the essences of Adamu and Tiamat were contemplated. With the life essence of Anunnaki males and females, they were compared. Like two intertwined serpents, Ningishida, the essences separated. Arranged like 22 branches on a tree of life were the essences. Their bits were comparable. The images and likenesses they purposely determined. 22 they were in number. The ability to procreate they did not include. Another 2 bits of the essence in the Anunnaki present Ningishida to the others showed. 1 male, 1 female. Without them there was no procreating. So was he to them explaining. In the molds of Adamu and Tiamat, the combining they were not included. All right, so now the Sumerians in their histories that were written who knows how long ago, because archaeology lies to us, they're talking about the number of strands in DNA. It took us a while to figure that one out. They locked the doors behind them. The 3 with the 2 earthlings alone remained. Upon the 4 others, Ningishida a deep sleep caused to descend. The 4 he made unfeeling. From the rib of Enki, the life essence he extracted. Into the rib of Adamu, the life essence of Enki he inserted. From the rib of Ninma, the life essence he extracted. Into the rib of Tiamat, the life essence he inserted. Where the incisions were made, the flesh therein he closed up. Then the 4 of them, by Ningishida, were awakened. It is done, he proudly declared. To their tree of life, 2 branches have been added. With procreating power, their life essences are now entwined. Let them freely roam. As one flesh, let them know each other, Ninma was saying. In the Eden's orchards to freely roam, Adamu and Tiamat were placed. Of their nakedness they became aware. Of malehood and femalehood they were knowing. Tiamat of leaves aprons made, with the wild beasts from the wild beasts to be distinguished. In the heat of the day, Enlil in the orchard was strolling. The shade he was enjoying. Without expectation, Adamu and Tiamat he encountered. The aprons on their loins he noticed. What is the meaning of this? Enlil wondered. Enki for explaining he summoned. The matter of procreation, Enki to Enlil explained. The 7 and 7 had failed, to Enlil he admitted. Ningishida, the life essence, examined an additional combining was needed. Great was Enlil's anger. Furious his words were. The whole thing was not to my liking. For acting as creators I had opposed. The being that we needed already exists, so were you, Enki, saying. All we need is put our mark on it, thereby primitive workers to fashion. Healing heroines put themselves at risk. Ninma and Ninki were endangered. To no avail it was all. Your handiwork was a failure. Now the last bits of our life essence to these creatures you have given. To be like us in procreation, knowing perchance our life cycles on them to bestow. Thus did Enlil with angry words speak. Enki, Ninma, and Ningishida summoned with words Enlil to pacify. My lord Enlil, Ningishida was saying, knowing for procreation they were given, the branch of long living to their essence tree was not. Ninma then spoke up. To her brother Enlil she was saying, what was the choice, my brother, to end it all in failure, Nibiru in doom to face its fate, or to try and try and try, and by procreation let earthlings the toil undertake? Then let them be where they are needed, Enlil with anger said. To the Abzu, away from Eden, let them be expelled. To the Abzu, away from Eden, let them be expelled. So did Enlil the command decree. From the Eden to the Abzu, Adamu and Tiamat were expelled. They had a son and a daughter, twins to the earth beings were born. With understanding were the primitive workers endowed of commandments they were comprehending. To be with the Anunnaki they were eager. For food rations they toiled well. Of heat and dust they did not complain. Of backbreaking they did not grumble. Of the hardships of work the Anunnaki of the Absu were relieved. The vital gold to Nibiru was coming. Nibiru's atmosphere was slowly healing. Nanar and Ningol, twins, were born. A daughter and a son they were. Inanna and Utu by Ningol they were named. With them, a third generation of Anunnaki on Earth was present. For the offspring of the leaders, tasks were allotted. Some olden chores were divided. Easier among the offspring they were made. To the olden chores, new tasks were added. Upon the earth, the warmth was rising. Vegetation flourished. Wild creatures overran the land. The rains were heavier. Rivers were gushing. Abodes repairing needed. Upon the earth, heat was increasing. The snow-white parts to water were melting. The bars of the seas of the oceans were not containing. From the depths of the earth, volcanoes were fire and brimstones belching. The grounds were trembling. Each time the earth was shaking. In the lower world, the snow-white-hued place, the earth was grumbling. At the tip of the Absu, Enki, a place for observing, established. To his son Nergal and to his spouse Ereshkigal, command thereof he entrusted. A thing unknown, an untoward thing, thereunder is brewing. And Nergal said to his father Enki said, In Nibrukai, the place of the bond, heaven and earth, Enlil the heavenly circuits was watching. By the MEs of the tablets of destiny, celestial motions he was comparing. There is turmoil in the heavens, Enlil to his brother Enki said. From the planet Lamu, which is Mars, the place of the way station, Marduk to Enki, his father, was complaining. Strong winds are disturbing. Annoying dust storms they are raising. So Marduk to his father Enki, words were beaming. In the hammered bracelet, turmoils are occurring. That's our asteroid belt. Upon the earth, brimstones from the skies were falling. Pitiless demons havoc causing. Violently the earth they approached. Into flaming fires in the sky they were bursting. In a clear day, darkness they were causing. With storms and evil winds they raged around. Like stony missiles, the earth they were attacking. Kingu, the earth's moon, and Mars, too, by these havocs were afflicted. The faces of all three with countless scars were covered. Enlil and Enki to Anu, the king, urgent words were beaming. Nibiru's savants they alerted. The earth and the moon and Lamu, Mars, a calamity unknown are facing. From Nibiru, the savants were responding. Their words of the leaders' hearts were not calming. In the heavens, the family of the sun were taking stations. The celestials, of whom Earth is the seventh in a row, were choosing places. And remember, the Earth is seventh in the row when you're coming into the galaxy, not when you're on Earth. So the Sumerians always counted from the outside in. In the heavens, Nibiru was approaching. The sun's abode it was nearing. By the 7 in a row arraigned was Nibiru distracted. The path through the hammered bracelet it was missing. From the bracelet, bits and pieces it has been displacing. Bereft of the celestial bar, Lamu with Mumu near the sun were crouching. In the heavens, Lahamu, her glorious dwelling place, was abandoning. Toward Nibiru, the heavenly king, she was attracted. A queen of heaven she wished to be. All right, so that's celestial. That gets a little. It's kind of like the celestial stories and the earthly stories. Although they do use some of the same names, these are different. They're referring to different entities. To quell her, Nibiru, from the celestial deep, a monstrous demon made appear. A monster once to Tiamat's host belonging, by the celestial battle fashioned. From the celestial deep made its way, by Nibiru was it from slumber awakened. From horizon to the midst of heaven, like a flaming dragon it was stretched. 1 league was its head, 50 leagues in length it was. Awesome was its tail. By day the skies of earth it darkened. By night upon the face of the moon a spell of darkness it cast. To her brothers, the celestials, Lahamu or Mars for help was calling. Who will the dragon obstruct? Who will stop and kill it? She was asking. Only valiant Kingu, which is the moon, once Tiamat's protector, stepped forward to respond. To intercept the dragon in its path, Kingu was making haste. Fierce was the encounter. A tempest of clouds upon Kingu was raised. By its foundations was Kingu shaken. From the impact did the moon quake and shake. So it's basically a heavenly meteor hitting the moon. Then the heavenly habit was calmed. Nibiru to its distant abode in the deep was returning. Lahumu, its dwelling place, did not abandon. The stony missiles upon earth and Lahumu ceased the raining. Enki and Enlil with Marduk and Ninur gathered, a surveying of the havoc they undertook. All right, so if you're familiar with the, I believe it's the Younger Dryas era, I believe that's what they're talking about here. Again, if you want to do the math, this does actually list the mathematics necessary to calculate their 3 calendars and figure out precisely when this did happen. But I'm pretty sure that's that Younger Dryas that they're impacts that they're talking about. The depths of the oceans he measured. In Earth's far corners, the mountains of gold and copper he scanned. Of the vital gold, there would be no shortage. This was Enki saying. In the Eden, Ninurta was the surveyor, where mountains trembled and valleys shook. In his skyship, he soared and journeyed. The landing platform was intact. In the valleys of the north, the earth's fiery liquids was pouring. So was Ninurta to his father Enlil telling. Sulfuric mists and bitumens, which is like basically fossil fuels, he was discovering. On Mars, the atmosphere was damaged. Dust storms were with life and work interfering. So Marduk, which is Enki's son, Marduk to Enki was saying, to Earth return I wish, because he was in charge of Mars, right? To his father he disclosed. Enlil to his olden plans betook himself. What cities and their tasks he planned he reconsidered. A chariot place in the Eden must be established, to the others he was saying. The olden designs of the layout on the crystal tablet to them he showed. Let the place of the chariots near Bad Tiberia, the metal city, be established. There thrown, let the gold from earth to Nibiru in the chariots directly be carried. So Ninurta of Bad Tiberia, the commander, to them words were saying. Let a place of celestial chariots in the Eden be established. Nearer the place where the gold ores are smelted and refined, let it be built. Let the pure gold in the chariots directly from earth to Nibiru be carried. Of great merit is the plan, my brother, Enki to their father Anu was saying. A great disadvantage in its core it is holding. The net pole of earth, which they're talking about gravity. And so Isaac Newton, sorry about your luck. Somebody figured out that gravity exists before you. The net pole of earth is then Lahumu's much greater. To overcome it, our powers shall be exhausted. So basically they're saying that, breaking free of Earth's gravity is difficult when packing a cargo hold full of gold. Must be nice, huh? Nearby the Earth a companion it has, the moon it is. Smaller is its net pole. Ascent and descent thereon little effort will require. Let us make a way station consider. Let me and Marduk thereto journey. So they journeyed to the moon, and they saw many hollows. The handiwork of smashing demons was the moon's face marked. In place of rolling hills, they set the rocket ship down. In the midst, they landed. Rocket ship, huh? From the place of earth they could observe, and the expanse of the heavens. Eagles' helmets they had to don. The atmosphere was for breathing insufficient. With ease they walked about. In this and that direction they went. For 1 circuit of earth, for 3 circuits of the moon they remained. Its motions about the earth they measured. The duration of a month they calculated. For 6 circuits of earth, for 12 circuits about the sun, earth's year they measured. How the two were entwined, causing the luminaries to disappear, they recorded. Then to the sun's quarter they attention gave. The paths of Mumu and Lahumu they studied. With the earth and moon, Lamu, the sum's second quarter constituted. 6 were the celestials of the lower waters, so was Enki to Marduk explaining. 6 were the celestials of the upper waters. Now the lower waters and upper waters are separated by the hammer bracelet. And they were Anshu and Kishar, Anu and Nudamund, Gaga and Nibiru. Those were the 6 others. 12 were they in all? Of 12 did the sun and his family make the count. Of the upheavals most recent, Marduk of his father was inquiring. Why have 7 celestials in a row places taken? So he, his father, was asking. Their circuits about the sun, Enki then considered. Their grand band around the sun, their progenitor, Enki carefully observed. The positions of earth and moon therein on a chart, Enki marked out. By the motions of Nibiru, of the sun's not a descendant, the width of the great band he outlined. The way of Anu, the king, to name it, Enki decided. So Enki, they basically figured a way to get through the asteroid belt, which was a huge issue for for their whole venture. In the expanse of the deep heavens, the stars did father and son observe. By their proximities and groupings was Enki fascinated. By the circuit of heavens from horizon to horizon, he drew images of 12 constellations. In the great band, the way of Anu, one each with the sun's family of 12 he paired. To each one he designated a station, by names they were to be called. Then in the heavens below the way of Anu, whence Nibiru the sun is approaching, a band-like way he designed, the way of Enki it designated. To it 12 constellations by their shape he also allotted. The heavens above the way of Anu, the upper tier, the way of Enlil he called. Therein to the stars into 12 constellations he assembled. 36 were the stars' constellations. All right, hold on a second here. It's acting up again. All right, let's see. Let's get to this. Oh, of course. Where were we? There we go. All right. All right. 36 were the stars' constellations. In the 3 ways were they located. So were the Earth's position designated as around the sun it travels. The start of the cycle of celestial time, the measure Enki to Marduk indicated. When on Earth I had arrived, the station that was ending by me, the station of the fishes, was named. The one that followed after my name title, he of the water I called. So Enki is basically, he is Pisces. So Enki with satisfaction and pride to his son Marduk was saying, your wisdom the heaven embraces, your teachings any own understanding extend. But on earth, on Nibiru, knowledge and rulership are separated. So did Marduk to his father say, my son, what is it that you do not know? What is it that you are missing? The secrets of the heavens, the secrets of the earth with you I have shared. Alas, my father, Marduk was saying, there was agony in his voice. When the Anunnaki in the Abzu the toil ceased, and the primitive worker you set to fashion, not my mother, but Ninmah, the mother of Ninurta, to assist you was summoned. Not I, but Ningishida of me, the younger, to help you was invited. With them, not with me, your knowledge of life and death did you share. My son, Enki to Marduk responded, to you command was given of the Igigi and the Lamu to be supreme. Alas, my father, to him Marduk was saying, of supremacy by fate we are deprived. You, my father, are Anu's firstborn, yet Enlil, not you, is the legal heir. You, my father, were first to splash down and Endu establish, yet Eridu is in Enlil's hands, yours in the distant Abzu. I am your firstborn. By your legitimate spouse on Nibiru was I born. Yet the gold in the city of Ninurta is assembled, their throne to send or to withhold. The Bible of Nibiru is in his hands. In my hands it is not. Now the earth we are returning, what will my task be? Am I to fame and kingship fated, or again to humiliated be? In silence did Enki embrace his son. On the desolate moon to him a promise was made. Of that of which I have been deprived, your future lot shall be. Your celestial time will come, a station mine adjoining, yours shall be. Now this is the account of Sippar, which is the pyramids, I believe, the place of the chariots in the Eden, and how the primitive workers to the Eden were returned. For many circuits of the earth, from the earth were father and son absent. On Earth, no plans were implemented. On Mars, the Igigi were in turmoil. Enlil to Anu, secret words conveyed. His concerns to Anu from Nibru Ki beamed. Enki and Marduk to the moon have gone. For countless circuits they are staying. Their doings a mystery are. What they are scheming is not known. Marduk, the way station on Lamu, is abandoned. The Igigi are agog. Gotta love that one. By dust storms has the way station been affected. What damage there is to us is not known. The place of the chariots in the Eden must be established. Therefrom the gold directly from earth to Nibiru be carried. No way station on Lemos shall henceforth be needed. The plan of Nurta it is. Great in these matters is his understanding. Let him the place of chariots near Bad Tiberia establish. Let Ninurta be its first commander. Anu to the words of Enlil gave much consideration. To Enlil a response he gave. Enki and Marduk to earth are returning. What about the moon they have found? Let us first to their words listen. From the moon Enki and Marduk departed, to earth they did return. Of conditions thereon they gave account. A way station is unfeasible now, so they reported. Let the place of the chariots be built, Anu was saying. Let Marduk be its commander, Enki was saying to Anu. The task is for Ninurta set aside, Enlil with anger shouted. Ninurta is, of course, Enlil's child. For the Igigi command is no more needed. Of the tasks Marduk knowledge has, of the gateway to heaven let Marduk be in charge, so did Enki to his father say. Anu, the matter with concern, contemplated. Rivalries now the sons have affected. With wisdom was Anu endowed, with wisdom were his decisions. The place of the chariots for new ways the gold to handle is designated. Let us what henceforth comes in the hands of a new generation place. Neither Enlil nor Enki, neither Ninurta nor Marduk in command shall be. Let the third generation responsibility undertake. Let Utu be the commander. Let the place of celestial chariots be built. Let Sipar, Bird City, be its name. This was the word of Anu. Unalterable was the word of the king. In the 81st Shar, which a Shar is the Niberian year, which is 360,000 years, so in the 81st period of 360,000 years was the construction started. That's how long they had been there. The plans of Enlil it followed. Nibiru Kai was in the center, a navel of the earth by Enlil it was designated. As on circles by their place and distances from olden cities were located, like an arrow from the lower sea toward the mountains pointing they were arrayed. A line on the twin peaks of Arata, remember we spoke about that in Arata in episode 2. A line on the twin peaks of Arata, to the skies in the north reaching he drew. Where the pointing arrow, the Arata line intersected, the place for Sipar, the earth's place of the chariots, he marked out. To it the arrow directly led. From Nibrukai was by an equal circle precisely located. In the 82nd Shar was the construction of Sipar completed. To the hero Utu of Enlil the grandson, its command was given. An eagle helmet for him was fashioned. With eagle's wings was he decorated. In the first chariot from Nibiru to Sipar, directly come, Anu was traveling. To view for himself the installation he desired, to marvel at what was attained he wanted. For the occasion, the Igigi by Marduk commanded, from Lamu to earth came down. From the landing place and from the Absu, Anunnaki were assembled. There was backslapping and hailing, a feast and celebration. For Anu Mana, Enlil's granddaughter, singing and dancing presented. With affection, Anu kissed her. Anunita, Anu's beloved, he fondly called her. Hold on a second. Before departing, Anu, the heroes and heroines assembled. A new era has begun, so he was to them saying, supplied directly with the golden salvation. Forthcoming is the end of toil. Once enough gold on Nibiru for protecting is piled in storage, the toil on earth can be diminished. Heroines and heroes to Nibiru will return. All right, hold on a second. Computer's acting up again. Drives me nuts, I tell you. All right, so we'll read a little bit more, then we'll call it a thing because it's getting towards that time. In Absu, relief, not continued toil, was the Anunnaki's expectations. Now that the Earthlings are proliferating, let them provide the labor. So were the Anunnaki in the Absu saying. In the Eden, the tasks were greater. More abodes, more provisions were required. For primitive workers, to the Absu confined did the Eden heroes clamor. For 40 shars was relief only to the Absu provided. The heroes in the Eden shouted, "Our toil has increased beyond endurance. Let us have workers too." While Enli and Enki the matter were debating, Ninurta the decision into his hands took. With 50 heroes, an expedition to the Absu he led. With weapons they were armed. In the forests and the steppes of the Absu, the Earthlings they chased. With nets they them captured. Male and female to the Eden they them brought. To do all manners of chores. In the orchards and in the cities they trained them. By the doings was Enki angered. By them was Enlil enraged. My expelling of Adamu and Tiamat you have overturned, so Enlil to Ninurta said. Let the mutiny once in the Absu occurring, not in the Eden, be repeated, so to Enlil Ninurta said. With the Earthlings in the Eden, the heroes were becalmed. A few more shars and it will no longer matter. So did Ninurta to Enlil say. Enlil was not appeased. With grumbling, let it so be, to his sons he said. Let the gold pile up quickly. Let us to Nibiru soon return. In the Eden, the Anunnaki, the Earthlings with admiration observed. Intelligence they possessed. Of commands they had understanding. They took over all manner of chores. Unclothed they were tasks performing. As the Earthlings grew in numbers... Alright, hold on a second. This thing is killing me. I don't know why it acts up like this, but I can't get it to scroll. Alright, as the Earthlings grew in numbers, workers the Anunnaki had. With food, the Anunnaki were not satiated. Alright, hold on a second. I wish I could get this on the other screen so I could get it to work. But it won't do it. I don't know what it is. Here, let me close this. There we go. Yes, save. Alright. Sorry about that, guys. Technical difficulties there. So I think on that note, we'll call it an end, and we'll pick up where we left off next week. Apologize. I accidentally closed the program that actually had my microphone connected to it, so lost sound there. But like I said, it's a riveting story. Basically, you'll notice there's a lot of parallels there to stories that are in quite a few different faiths. It'll go on. I mean, we're probably pretty close to about halfway of what I want to share with you guys before I move on to some other stuff. But I definitely it gives a lot of matter for thought. You notice that they're very precise on what they're talking about. The scientific knowledge that they're speaking of is way beyond what we've been taught that the ancients understood, and as we go through the rest of the story next week, what you'll find is that it explains that. I mean, already they're talking about building the mega list that he was talking about. As a matter of fact, those 10 million ruins in South Africa, it kind of talks about that, does it not? And you'll notice that if you study any of the discoveries that they make of a lot of the ancient monoliths, they're destroyed, and there's still parts missing out of the story. I mean, it's like by the time we get done, a lot will be explained, but there's still some stuff missing. Next week, for a thrill, what I'm going to do is, because, I mean, see, it's like I was saying last night when I was talking about what I was going to do tonight on this Sister Dobong show. The fact of the matter is that, it's like these guys, there's some of them that did not leave. And they're still here. They're still fighting their wars, and we're still trapped in between them. And that's kind of like what the first episode was about, because it's like again, this book and the translations in it. I mean, this story that the enki directly told to a scribe. I mean, everything that we're discovering today still is in support of these stories these Sumerians wrote that some ignorant fool is called mythology, and then they teach us this mythology in school that's supposed to be history that actually, is farthest from the truth, and so there's a part where Mr. Tellinger, it's like, and I'll have to show you next week, but there's a part where, me and him agree very well, and so I'll probably put that in the introduction next week, so that was it for today, guys. Sorry about the dead air there with the technical difficulty, but, it is what it is. There seems to be like a lot of opposition to what I'm trying to teach here, because I run into some of the most amazing, inexplicable technical difficulties you'll ever see. Like I was gonna pipe audio directly from an output on my interface today, and we're right about 30 minutes before the show, for some reason that output no longer works. I don't know why, so I had to jimmy rig. So if there's an issue with the sound quality, it's because I had to get around a mysterious technical difficulty where my audio interface no longer put out sound. Yay! Explain that one. Anyway, you're listening to BrooklynStation.com. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow night for Skate Legend Boo and his set. And actually, I'll be going to a meeting, a business networking gig tomorrow night for the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce. Looking forward to that. We're, of course, going to be in the Pride Parade, so look for Teen Queen Radio in the Pride Parade. Hey, if you can find love in this world, you're doing pretty good. And that's as far as I can say on people's personal relationships, because they're none of my business. Thus, I don't really care about sexuality, just like I don't care about race. I don't care about it. I really don't care about any of the stuff they use to divide us, because I know it's there to divide us. And by God, I am rebellious. You are not going to tell me anything. 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 You are not going to tell me anyth You know, a thousand mofos can't tell me a darn thing. So, you know, it's like I think for myself. And the point of this entire production I'm putting out here is I want to encourage other people to think for themselves. And this story of creation, you know, it's a lot more in depth than than a lot of than the offshoots of it. And by the time we get done with this, you will know that the Sumerians' histories are not mythology, and they are our heritage. They are truth. These guys didn't go around carving stone so they could pull our legs. That's kind of why I used the portion of Mr. Tellinger, because nobody could have put it better. I just wandered out and built these giant things because it was freaky, you know, and that's basically what they expect us to believe. You know, I mean, the concept of the pyramid at Giza being a tomb is patently ridiculous. I mean, when they taught it in school, I mean, everything they've ever taught me in school, basically, I've sat as I was growing up and went, this is bullshit, because it is. So, you know, it's like, if there's one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to bullshit you here. So, you know, tune in next week and we will finish the reading of the Lost Book of Enki. And from there, we'll take you a little further down the rabbit hole, because after that, I think we're going to start delving into some other stuff that the Bible and Quran and the Torah and all, you know, basically all other faiths speak of. And that's, of course, the war with the giants. So next week, the end of the Lost Book of Enki, and then after that, we're going to start exploring some giants. Thanks for listening. This is BrooklynStation.com. Don't forget to tune in to KingandQueenRadio.com for some of the world's best